Ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to welcome to the programme Tim Greaves. Tim, you're an author and you've written, about 8 books now with a lady called Rebecca Xibalba, who we interviewed a little while ago.
Xibalba.
Yeah. Xibalba, that's it. I can never get her name right. She always tells me off. But you had a very strange way of sort of meeting to write together, didn't you?
Unique possibly. Yeah, it was during lockdown in 2020, at the beginning of 2020. We were playing online Scrabble. Well, I was playing online Scrabble, and so was Rebecca. And one day, our paths crossed. I think she challenged me to a match. And while we were playing, started using the app's chat facility, making probably silly comments about the words we were playing. I can't remember now. But somehow the subject got around to movies, and we discovered we liked the same sort of movies. And so a friendship began.
Those movies are horror movies.
Yes, primarily, yes.
Which I suppose is quite a sort of narrow subject, really. But the books or the scripts that you wrote that then have now become novels are quite far-reaching, aren't they? I mean, it's not as though they are just for horror fans.
No, well, the first one was it's like a survival horror story called The Break. And that was the one that started it, and that had been an idea that had been percolating in Rebecca's head for 10 years, 15 years, I'm not sure now. And she mentioned it to me one day, and I said, well, come on, let's do something with it. Let's try and make a script out of it. So it started as a script, yes, and then we did a second one, Reset, which was not at all based upon lockdown and COVID or anything like that, but it was about an outbreak in the UK. And then we did a third one called Mistyle, about a stalker.
Yes.
And trying to get a foot in the door of the film industry is, trying to breach a steel wall. And so we had these 3 scripts, and what are we going to do with these? And we tried 1 or 2 avenues and weren't getting anywhere. And I can't remember which one of us suggested it. So, well, let's try novelising one of them. So we started with what we thought was possibly the most, the easiest one to get onto paper from script to story in that respect. And we went with Mistyle, which became our first novel. We had a lot of fun writing it, probably more so than writing the scripts, really. And we had, once it came out, we had a lot of interest in it and said, okay, this is perhaps the way to go. Let's put scripts on hold and stick with novels. So we, having already got The Break and Reset in script form, we adapted those into novels. And then after that, we started with original ideas that didn't come from scripts. And we've had, as you said just now, we've done 8 so far.
The thought, though, of writing with somebody, I mean, you're in, were you Eastleigh and she's in Canterbury?
Near Southampton, yes, near Southampton, yeah.
How do you do
and
it?
Rebecca's near Canterbury.
How do you do it? I mean, you can't actually get together and sit down and write. So what do you do?
No, with the writing we do see each other occasionally from time to time, but never to write because I've never got my laptop with me when we meet up, and neither has Rebecca. No, basically, Rebecca, she's got a wild imagination, comes up with some fantastic stories and characters, and we discuss the story and what we want to get from it, and the characters and how they should be, good, bad, in between, whatever. And then we start fleshing out the story as we go along. Mm-hmm. I do most of the physical sort of like writing side of it. When we're actually writing a book, we're on the phone pretty much every evening for a couple of hours every evening, thrashing it out, talking it through. Okay, right, we've got that chapter down, let's move on. So, yeah, it is a wholly collaborative process.
It always fascinates me with authors. Inspiration for characters. I mean, are they based on people you know, people you've seen, or...
Well, there's a saying, I don't know who said it, there's a saying, write what you know. And yes, I think that there's always a seed of somebody in a character or a seed of something in a situation. A memory, perhaps from childhood or whatever, and you can use that and give that memory to a character in a book. And it's a lot of fun. So in some respects, you're kind of putting yourself into the story subliminally, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I mean, we've kind of expanded beyond the books themselves in written form. The first 6 are also audio books, most of which have been read by a lady called Sally Swift, who is an incredible voice artist. Her talent for switching back and forth between accents is frankly astonishing. So she's become our go-to. And, so the first 6 have been done as audiobooks. But the problem that we've sort of encountered more than anything is marketing. Because we're doing it all ourselves, it's very hard to get the thing out there. It makes the months of toil writing a book seem like the easy bit, Yeah. It's probably a bit of a generalisation, but I think that people largely tend to view it that if your books were any good, they would be on a shelf in their local bookstore, published by Penguin or Potter and Stoughton or whoever. What they probably don't realise is that, good, bad or otherwise, most publishers won't even look at an unsolicited manuscript. And that's the problem. That's the stumbling block.
Yeah.
So, you try and get the word out yourself. And, we self-publish. And you get the word out in any way you can. And I totally get it that if somebody's faced with a choice between the new Stephen King or this book, The Break, by these unknown authors, they're probably going to go with the new Stephen King. It's so hard. But, you just have to keep battling on and keep trying. And, of course, thousands and thousands of other people self-publish as well now. The platforms like Amazon have made it so easy to do that everybody who has a book in them is publishing it. So you're competing with a saturated marketplace. But we run offers occasionally. There's one running at the moment for our latest book, for the Kindle version. It's 99p, False Widow. Hey, anybody listening? It's worth it. You just try every avenue possible,
I was just reading a little bit about The False Widow, and that sounds fascinating. A woman who on face value is a pillar of society, but actually she's rather nasty, isn't she?
Yes, she is. She's manipulative, self-serving. On face value, she seems to care about the people around her, but underneath it all, she's conniving and wheedling away to get what she wants. And we had probably more fun with that one than we have done with any of our others. It's always great to write for nasty people. That sounds silly, but the good guys are kind of a bit boring.
Yeah.
You've got a really good, nasty bit of work in a story, and it's so much fun giving them things to do, horrible things to do. And we've got a few of those in all our books.
Do you find that when you're writing, that sometimes the characters lead you? You're not trying to think of what they're going to do. They're almost like going, yeah, well, I'm going to do this. You're going, oh, yeah, you are. Yeah, that's right. Do you find that happens?
Yes, to a point, definitely. And I know, certainly speaking for Rebecca, when we're in the writing zone on a new book, everything comes alive for her, and these characters become real, and they live in her head for the duration of the writing process. And situations come out of nowhere. You say before we discuss the storyline, but suddenly one of us will say, hang on, suppose this person did that there. That would facilitate something later on, which would be even more evil. So, yeah, let's do that. So it's just great fun collaborating. Yeah.
I do wonder sometimes whether these characters, take you over, and whether you sort of start thinking the way they think just to get the story straight. Do you find that ever happens?
Well, I hope not, because some of the things these people get up to are diabolical, and they should be in jail. but no, it is very, very easy to become totally absorbed in the characters, and because you're putting the words into their mouths as well, and you can have them say things that you would never say to somebody in real life. Horrible, nasty, unkind things. But it's not you saying it, it's the character in the book saying it to somebody else.
So it's all right.
So it's kind of like a channel to vent some of your inner rage as well sometimes.
Tim, if somebody wants to get into the books, is there a starting point, or are all the books sort of individual in their own?
Well, the Break, let me see, we've got, the Mistar was the Stalker one. The Break is the survival horror. Now, there was a sequel to that called Hazelwood. And we also wrote a prequel called Man and the Make of the Man.
Ah, yeah.
So they're kind of like a trilogy. aside from that, they are all individual stories. There's one called The Well, which is a compendium of short stories. We challenged each other we'd been collaborating on everything. We said, okay, let's go away and write some short stories on our own without collaborating with each other. And what we ended up with was about 6 or 7 stories that we put into a small compendium. So that's quite an easy read for somebody who likes, if you don't like one story, you move on to the next one. That's easy reading. But I mean, from the point of view of accessibility for the person in the street who doesn't like anything too gory, doesn't like too much swearing, because I mean, some of our books, particularly The Break, there's quite a lot of gore and quite a lot of swearing. I would say False Widow, our latest, is the most accessible. It's got likeable characters as well. Not everybody's nasty, but it's a good, engrossing read. I mean, I'm saying that we wrote it, but people who've read it, the feedback that we've had has been very, very positive. The classic, it's a page turner. I thought I'd read a chapter before I went to bed, and I ended up reading 6. And it's lovely to hear when you think you've captured somebody like that.
Excellent.
And as I say, the False Widow, if people like their Kindle as opposed to buying a physical paperback, it is just 99p at the moment on offer. So what's a pound these days?
Nothing. If somebody wants to get the books, any of the books, what's the best way of doing it? I mean, obviously with Kindle, we know how to do that, but can you get the physical books?
Yes, they're all available on Amazon. We publish using Amazon's platform. You just look us up. It's Rebecca Xibalba and Tim Greaves, and or look them up by the titles that I've mentioned: False Widow, The Break, Reset. I'm trying to think of them all now. We've got a bookshelf full now.
Madness Maketh a Man. That's the one that fascinates me.
Madness Maketh a Man. Now, Madness Maketh a Man, you see, that's the prequel to The Break. The evil husband in Break, and we go back into his past to see what made him the person that he becomes to do the nasty things that he does in The Break. So yes, that was part of the trilogy, and Hazelwood was a sequel to The Break, which one of the surviving characters goes on a trail of revenge. That's sort of a revenge thrillery kind of thing. They've all got like a slightly different slant to them. I've got a nice one called 321, which is about a stage hypnotist, or an aspiring stage hypnotist, who wants to get into that aspect of work. It's been his lifelong dream, and he does so, but it doesn't quite go the way that he hopes. Every one of them is slightly different, except the Break trilogy, which obviously are all kind of tied in.
Yeah. One more question, if I may.
Yes.
How much research do you have to do to be able to write these books? I mean, not just into the characters, but into the sort of framing of the story.
Well, I suppose I should say, weeks and weeks of research. But, there's some research. If you're talking about, I don't know, a police interview sequence or something like that in a book, you kind of have to look those up and see what the formalities are and how that sort of thing works. You don't want to look a complete idiot and have somebody reading it and go, well, that would never happen, would it? Largely speaking, we don't tend to write anything that's so technical that it's beyond us. And very, very occasionally we've bluffed it. Nobody's challenged us yet. But a little bit of research. If you're looking at a place you've never been, for example, the False Widow starts in Australia. I've never been to Australia. So I got out my old school atlas and some textbooks and got onto Google. And I kind of built a picture of the young lady's life out in Australia before she moves back to the UK. And I'm sure it's not all correct, but, it's a bit of fiction, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Poetic license, as they say.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely that.
Tim Greaves, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Lovely to speak to you.
Give my best to Rebecca when you see her or speak to her.
I will.
And all the best with the books. Looking forward to number 9.
That will be coming sometime soon, I'm sure. Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers for now, Tim. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.